Hey everybody, and welcome back to Uncle Pookie's Barbecue. I'm your host, Uncle Pookie. And today's episode, we're going to do another old school recipe. My brother-in-law, Uncle Bro, used to make what he called a Cajun roast beef. Basically, good way to take a cheap piece of meat and feed a lot of people with it, which is great. Today we're going to do a little spin on that. We're going to take a sirloin roast, smoke it for a few hours, get some good smoke flavor into it, and cook it to about 190 to 200, right where it's getting ready to come apart. And then we're going to cool it down, refrigerate it overnight in order to put it in the slow cooker the next day and let it cook all day with some gravy mix, some broth, some onions, and be able to shred it and put it on sandwiches the next day. So also get to finally use a new little toy. The good folks with Tappecue had sent me their dual sensor probes, and so this is going to be a good opportunity to try these out. Basically, you've got a sensor in the tip for a meat probe so that you can check and monitor the internal temperature of the meat, but almost to the end of the probe you also have a little crimp, and I'll show you a little closer up what it does, or where it is in the probe. It also has a sensor there, so it's reading the pit temperature at the meat, which is the most important place. People ask me all the time about thermometers in the wall of a smoker, in the door, or anything like that, and I'm a big proponent of having a temperature probe near your meat. That way, no matter what, if you've got it in the door, if you got it in the wall, yeah, it's reading the overall temperature right there, but you could have something going on, something blocking, or maybe on purpose blocking some heat, some airflow in your cooker, and the temperature of the meat may be a little bit different, maybe enough to change the way your cook goes. So these dual sensor probes can be very cool. I want to try these out and see how well they work. And of course, with the Tappecue unit, you've got controls on your phone, so you don't have to come back and forth. You can see wherever you are from your phone. And with these new probes, you'll be able to see what the meat temperature is doing and your pit temperature is doing. So a really cool idea, and we'll give them a try. Y'all stay tuned. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and if you will, like or subscribe to the channel. That way you get notifications anytime we do put out a new video. So appreciate y'all tuning in, and let's get going. Alright guys, here we go. I am going to go ahead and cut open this beautiful, well, first I'm going to put on my gloves, and then we're going to cut open this sirloin roast. As you can see from one side of it, it really looks like it's got some great marbling. I don't know if you can see that real well, but some really good look here. Now there is a little bit of fat, and it may be a little bit of skin I want to remove on here on this side, but we're going to open her up, see what she looks like close up. And you saw my Mad Cow cutlery just went through that plastic like it was nothing. So real happy and thankful for them allowing me to join the team. Now we've got, just again, this is going to go from the smoker to the refrigerator and then into a slow cooker. So I'm not real worried about any kind of snaggly ends or anything, but I do want to get rid of some of this hard fat. Again, it's kind of like a brisket. The hard fat's just going to stay there and be in the way, and I'm not real interested in keeping that. The loose fat I definitely want. The hard fat, though, is just not something I'm wanting to keep on here, and I certainly don't want to carve off any of the good meat. It's definitely marbled well throughout, it looks like. So just going to kind of experiment here, look around and see what all this meat is showing me. Again, having a sharp knife makes this so easy. Okay, so we're going to continue just cutting a little bit. That's the good thing about it. You cut a little at a time and not be in any danger. You start taking big chunks here and there, and that's where you lose so much of the good stuff. Now you can see there's a layer of skin right through here. I don't really want to cut off this looser fat, but at the same time, I don't want that skin. I want as much smoke flavor to penetrate into this meat. This Cajun roast is going to be good, but I want it to be as smoky as I can get it. Whole point of being a smoked Cajun roast. So let's try here. With all this intermuscular fat, I'm not too scared of cutting too much fat out of this, so I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive through this here, trying to get this hard fat out. Again, that's not going to cook down, it's not going to render, it's just going to be a barrier in the way, and I'm not too concerned about it being down deep in here as far as that goes, but if I can reach it without destroying this roast, that's what I'm going to do. So just going to see, there's some in here that just does not want to go away. And again, with a sharp knife, it's easy, but I don't want to get my hands in the way either, so I don't want to prove how sharp this knife is. Let's get through here. And the game plan here, as soon as I get this trimmed down, some more of that sinew or skin, I just don't want that in my final product. So we're going to cut away as much of that as I can without cutting into this meat too much. The idea here is to get this ready so we can inject it. I've got some beef broth and some Moore's marinade. My ratios on that, people have said I need to be a little more specific. I put in 10 ounces into this little jar I'm about to show you. 10 ounces of beef broth to 4 ounces of Moore's marinade, and then about 2 ounces of red wine vinegar. And we're going to inject this up here momentarily and let it sit and let that injection just kind of spread around through this roast a little bit. Okay, now there is some separation in there, but I'm going to leave that part alone. But now this light is getting to this skin. I'm going to go ahead and kind of, as I tend to do, I get a little bit OCD and start cutting and cutting and cutting when I say I'm not going to do much. But again, just that skin there, I just don't want that layer. It's going to cook off and cook away, but it's going to block some flavoring, some seasoning that I put on this here in a little while, and some smokiness that I want it to get. So I think we're good there. This little patch of fat didn't see any skin underneath it or around it. And there's just a hair of skin right there. Peel that off. And that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'm going to call that quits right there. And we're going to set up my injector. And this one is going to be an easy injection. As you can see, as I'm putting this needle on, it's kind of a blunt needle, so it's going to be a little tough to inject, but it's got multiple holes through this needle. So as I puncture in, I'm going to go in just about as far as I can, and it's going to distribute fluid from here on. So any direction I go, if I get in about halfway, that's going to be almost 100% of this marinade, this injection fluid that's going to go in and get all through this meat. So try not to be too messy here. This sirloin is cold, which is great for carving and cutting, but it's a little tough on the injection to spread. So we're just going to real carefully pull that out and inject as I'm pulling it out. I don't know if you'll be able to see. You can see it coming through the pores of the meat right off the bat, but that meat is starting to expand almost immediately. So it is definitely getting in there and doing its job. There we go. I just heard the air bubbles hit. So we're going to go another time here. And what I'm going to do is I let this sit. There we go. Yeah, it's coming through pretty good. I'm going to put the rest of this fluid in the bag with this meat so that it can really just absorb from every direction that I can get it to go. I don't know if you can really see that on camera. It's plumping up pretty good there, and of course it's coming back through the injection. It is making a big exit hole, which I'm not really a big fan of, but again, this is going to be smoked and then it's going to be slow cooked. So there you go. You can see a little bit of it pouring out another entry hole there, but it's gained a little bit there. So, but again, I'm going to put this in another bag and then pour the rest of that marinade in and let it sit for a couple hours. Let all these juices distribute. Let the juices surround it, penetrate as much as it can. Then we're going to come back and season it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, we have left this roast sit in the fridge for 4 hours. We've injected and we've also basically marinating, so it's getting from the inside and the outside here. Had it laying on one side for 2 hours, went back in the fridge later on, flipped it so it could sit the other side for 2 hours, and it is smelling beefy. That Moore's marinade is really, really good. You know, it's similar to a Worcestershire or a Dale seasoning. It's a nice beefy flavor, but it doesn't seem to have quite as much salt to it as some of the other brands. So either way, got the dirty hand, got the clean hand. I'm going to take my glove off of one hand. This is a mixture of my salt and pepper love and also my buttery love. Buttery love is a garlic butter love or butter blend that's really, really good. I'm putting this on here today for the added garlic. With this Cajun roast, I really want to bring out, you know, the garlic will really bring out the beef, but it also tends to be a Cajun type seasoning. So we're going to do that, kind of put a light coat. I'm not going to just really, really heavy coat this here because I want to add something else. Again, this is an old family recipe that my brother-in-law used to make, these Cajun roast beef sandwiches like this, and I'm doing a little twist on it, smoking it before we put it in the crock pot. But again, I'm just going to kind of do what we all do, make these recipes my own. The biggest added deal here is black pepper. We're going to put a good dose of black pepper on this to really spice it up a little bit. And then we're also going to put another coat of black pepper on it when it gets ready to go into the crock pot. And so just making sure we get a good layer of it all the way around without just putting too much on. We did have dinner one time with this, and Uncle Bro kind of hit the pepper a little hard. I had us all coughing and hacking and carrying on, trying to eat dinner that night. So we don't want to hit it too hard, but this is a fine ground pepper, so a little bit is going to go a long way versus a coarse grind. But there we go. Some technical difficulties here, but that's got us squared away. That's all the season I'm going to do, so the camera was telling me it's time to shut up. But we're going to go throw this on the smoker. We're going to use the pellet smoker today. I'm going to put it on there at 240, 245. That Grilla grills does hold a 20-degree window. so it may fluctuate by up to 20 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this on at 240. It should fluctuate between 230 and 250. So that's kind of where I want to be with this. And we're going to put this in. I'm going to get the Tappecue set up here too, so I can monitor this off my phone. So bear with me just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and get everything set up, and I'll show you the phone app for the Tappecue and how I'm going to keep an eye on the temperature for this meat. Stay tuned. All right, I want to show you this before we get it going here. Tappecue was cool enough to send me, if I can get the good view here, the new dual sensor probes. And I don't know if this is going to be really visible. Maybe try this here and see. I don't know if you can really see. There's a little crimp right about there. Again, I don't know if it's going to focus in real well or not, but you can see just the slightest little crimp right there in this whole probe. What's going on here, of course, is the meat probe sensor. You insert this end into the meat and it's going to read the temperature from there. But that little crimp right there is an ambient sensor. So this probe is going to read what meat temperature it is, what temperature the meat is, let me get it right, and also the air surrounding, about 3-4 inches above the meat, which is really perfect. You want to know what the temperature is of your pit close to the meat. So as you can see, and again, we may not get a good focus here, I've got it plugged into pit probe 2, and it's already reading 2 different temperatures. So it's picking up both of these sensors right now. That's really cool. I don't know of right offhand of any other product out there that has a true dual sensor probe, one probe that's reading 2 temperatures, the meat temperature and the ambient temperature this close to the meat. So it's really cool. I just wanted to take a second to show you all that and show you some of the cool stuff that Tappecue is doing there. Of course, my first probe is set up for the cruise, which won't be using this go round, using the pellet cooker. It takes care of all that itself. So anyway, we'll be right back. Well, you can see we've got everything set up. We've got the dual sensor probe inserted into the thickest part of the sirloin roast. We're going to close that up here. Get it too tangled up here. All right, and we're reading 130. Oh, let me get you back in. Let's see. Again, I don't know how good if you can see that or not. We're reading 49 to 50 degrees internal and 151, 152. We're climbing on the pit temp here. Of course, the Grilla is showing 220, but that's over at the temp probe. We're climbing at the meat, so everything's registering real good. I'm going to dial into the phone app here in just a minute and show you all that, so stay tuned. Okay, here we go. Again, I'm sorry about the view here, but this is my phone showing probe 2A, a little better view of it. It's set at 50 degrees, maximum temperature at 195. That is the probe's minimum at 0. Of course, it's not going to get to 0, but the max meat temp is going to be 195. And then probe 2B is the chamber, and it is reading 232 right now with a minimum of 200 and a maximum of 250. So if for some reason my pellets run low and I don't check it, as the temp gets down to 200 degrees, there's going to be an alarm that goes off to tell me, hey, something's wrong. And there's been no situation in the past where the temp has gone hotter than what I set it at, so we should be good to go as far as the temperature maximum at 250. But it's a really cool little phone app and program that Tappecue has, and I'm really impressed just with the initial use of the dual sensor probe. That's really cool that one sensor can read both external pit temp and the meat temp. So that's a really cool setup. We'll keep an eye on the temps and come back to you in just a little while. Stay tuned. Guys, all I can say is I wish we had smell-o-vision. This little sirloin roast smells awesome. Don't think I'm getting a good contrast on the color, as pretty as it is in real life, but that roast, I just pulled it. It temped out internal at 175. I thought about going all the way to 195, but since this is going to sit in a slow cooker tomorrow until it's ready to just shred, I'm not going to take it all the way up to 195. But it is right now, I don't have my clock handy, but I believe it's right about 7:30. It's been on since 4:15, so we're looking at a little over 3 hours. Small roast, so it's not, going to take a long time to get up to temp, and it could have gone on up. I could have went ahead and cooked this to 205 to 210 until it's ready to shred on its own, but I want everything to kind of mix together tomorrow in the slow cooker. So I'm going to let this hang out for a little bit and then bag it up and put it in the refrigerator overnight, and we will get started again in the morning. So stay tuned. And we are back. It is day 2 here. As you can see, my sirloin roast looking good. It is well refrigerated. We're going to throw that in the crock pot with the onions and some beefy mushroom soup, some brown gravy mix, and the remainder of my beef broth that we used for the injection the other day. And we may have to add a little water just to make sure there's enough liquid in there, but we're going to let this sit in the crock pot. It is about 11 o'clock, and we're going to let it sit in there all day long on low, just loosen up, all these flavors marinate together and the smokiness come out of that meat, and we will see how everything turns out here shortly. Stay tuned. Well, all right, now is the good time. Now is the time to fix the plate and get ready to eat. We've had the Cajun roast in the crock pot with the onions and the soup mix here since about 11 o'clock this morning, and it is now almost 7 o'clock. So it's been in there all day, and it is super tender. Now, the way this recipe used to be, we didn't put in as much liquid normally, so the gravy was more of a gravy consistency. I wanted this to be a little more watery, a little more soupy. So that's what's happened here. So that's a good thing about these recipes. You can always modify them the way you want. I like my sandwich with some different types of cheese. It depends on what you got. We normally would put Swiss or provolone on. This is a blend of shredded Monterey Jack, and I really like the way it turns out. So I'm putting a little bit on the bread here. What I did with the bread too, I toasted it, threw a little butter on it, but I also threw some of my buttery love or garlic butter seasoning on it. Really makes the bread pop, and also that added garlic in with the seasonings we put on the sirloin roast and everything. It's just going to be awesome. So I'm running this through the slotted spoon here while I'm waiting for it to drain. What I'm going to do too, we made up some homemade horseradish. As you can see, you can do it real easy with sour cream, Worcestershire, and some raw horseradish. Goes really good with this here. So I'm just going to spread that around a little bit. I want to have some bite to it on top of the Cajun seasonings. Got plenty of onion in this beef here. I'm going to let this drain out of the spoon real quick, and I like to put my meat on the taller bread side just so that the juice, as it gets through the bread, it doesn't sop all the way down and soak out that bottom bun, so you don't have anything to pick up. Get a little bit more here. We like those onions when they've been cooked on. That turns out really good. Keep that on there. Get a little bit more meat here. We need to make sure we know we got plenty of meat on this sandwich here. So a little strand there, a little strand down here a little bit. Plenty of it on there for that cheese to melt. Let it sit for just a minute as that cheese does. So sit there and melt, and some of these juices soak through to the top of the bun here. And I'm not going to waste your time watching me try this on video here, but you're going to see. Oh, lost a little bit there. Sorry, there's not smell-o-vision or a taste vision going on anywhere right now, because that is a good sandwich. It's good and messy for sure. But the smokiness of the smoked sirloin comes out real well. I like the Cajun seasonings with the black pepper on there. The black pepper doesn't really, it's not really Cajun seasoning as much as just adding a little spice to the roast itself. But the way it shreds down, it is super, super tender, just falling apart. That horseradish really adds a little bit more of a bite to it. And again, you can always dress these up as you like. I like it simple. I like a little bit of the mushroomy flavor with the meat, but I just really like the meat and the onions. It turns out really good that way. So if you get a chance, go ahead and smoke up a sirloin roast, and then throw it in the crock pot all day. Here, day or two after you get it done, and it turns out really, really good. It's a good cold, rainy day sandwich, but it's also good in the bright sunshine too. So don't hesitate. If you have any questions or anything, give us a holler on a comment on the video. You can also message me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And check out the website for the seasonings, at www.unclepookiebarbecue.com. And please hit that subscribe button and let me know that you're watching. Throw comments on there. I try to reply to every comment that I see come across. So just be glad that you're watching. Thank you for watching, and y'all have a good social isolation period. Have a good one.